challenges did you find when integrating with different protocols? What were the complex things that you have to tackle, and how these conversations went on about?
So from our point of view, the biggest challenge for any integration is, first of all, evaluating the viability of doing it, because to actually do the integration, you can't just read from a different source. You need to evaluate if it's possible to potentially do that in a safe way, which means basically integrating it with our fraud proof. So basically, you can only integrate with a external DA if you have a way to prove the data availability on the app chain's base layer. So you need some sort of support from that protocol. So it's common that these protocols do some sort of commitment on chain, and you need some mechanism to be able to verify whatever data you use in your rollup, that it's compatible, like it's whatever commitment is there, and there's a way to prove that. So evaluating if that's possible or not is something that is important in our perspective when starting to integrate, and evaluating if that's possible. And in a way, it's also important from the user's perspective. If you were to demand or see interest in a certain project, we are doing these integrations because we see demand from community and importance of these other protocols in the industry. If users were to choose between one of these, they would also look at and see if the project, the trust assumptions that it does, or the technology that it uses is something that he believes in, right? So yeah. I think in that part, it could be a challenge for the user as well, because it is different using a DA layer than not using it, because you have to take into consideration trust assumptions of that DA layer, right?
It's something that the developer, while he's designing his solution, he has to think about if this will fit the scope that he imagined before coding anything, right? Can you say it's a direct impact on security of the rollup itself, or it's more just the solution, the way that the developer adds it to their project?
Frankly speaking, there is an impact on the security, because the trust assumptions are different. That's undeniable. So anytime and if you talk to certain people in the industry, you know that, right? Certain people only, if it's not everything on the base layer, all the data is on the base layer, I don't even call it a rollup, I call it a Lithium, I call it something else. But so it is true that the trust assumptions are different. Still, many of these projects, like Espresso and Avail, they offer very robust security guarantees. So sometimes even comparable to the base layer. And so it's basically just, am I okay trusting this protocol, that the security guarantees that they are putting forward almost as good enough as the security guarantees of the base layer that I'm using or whatever. So in that respect, maybe it doesn't affect decisively the security of the rollup, because it's really good enough for the kind of application that you have or the trust assumptions that you have. So it's yes and no. Of course, it has a difference. It's something to be considered, but it's something that could well satisfy many application demands, right?